Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Word in Season. I hope that wherever you find yourself today, this is a blessing and an encouragement to you. I've been making my way through a devotional by Tim Keller called Making Sense of God. It's based off a book he wrote some time ago, and I highly recommend it. I thought it was really encouraging. But one of the devotions is on John chapter 11. It's a fascinating passage of scripture. You might know it, you may not. I'm going to give you a little summary so it doesn't really matter. But it's a beautiful passage because we really see the humanity and the heart of Jesus in this passage. The brief version goes something like this. One of Jesus' close friends, a man named Lazarus, who just happens to be the brother of Mary and Martha, is sick, so they send word to Jesus. The one you love is sick, come, he needs you. And Jesus does exactly that. He stays where he is another 2 days, which we don't really have time to go into now, but then he and all of his disciples make their way to Bethany, where Lazarus is. But here's the thing, by the time Jesus gets there, Lazarus is already dead. John, the author of the gospel, tells us on his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. So he didn't just die, he's been dead for a while. Long enough that people have traveled from Jerusalem to come and to mourn, as was Jewish custom. And when Martha hears that Jesus has arrived, she runs out to him and says, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." It's a sentence full of pain and grief, but Jesus responds with a promise. He says, "Your brother will rise again. That's why I'm here. I've come to bring Lazarus back from the grave." And he goes on to say, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. Whoever lives by believing in me will never die." Do you believe this? Martha says, "Yes, I believe," although I'm not fully sure that she understood what Jesus was saying to its full extent. And she goes off to find Mary, who we're told does the exact same thing. She runs out to Jesus, and standing there face to face with Jesus says almost the exact same thing as her sister. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." But this is where it gets really interesting. This is where we see the humanity and the heart of Jesus. Remember, he's already told us why he's here. He's already promised Martha, "I will raise Lazarus from the dead. It's going to happen. He will not stay dead. I'm going to raise him back to life." He's very clear about that. And yet John tells us when Jesus saw Mary weeping, when he saw the pain and the grief she was going through, he begins to weep. He says that he was deeply moved in his spirit. That word is embrahimai, very difficult to say. And it literally means to snort with anger. And I think that's fascinating. That here is Jesus standing face to face with Mary. And even though he knows in just a few moments he's going to raise Lazarus back to life, he's moved in his spirit. He snorts with anger. He weeps. Tim Keller puts it like this. Jesus could not have been weeping for Lazarus because he knew he was about to raise him from the dead. What then was he so grieved and angry about? He was furious at what sin and death had done to his creation, that it had ruined the creation and the people he so dearly loved. And I don't know about you, but I love that. I love the picture of Jesus snorting in anger over the suffering and the pain of our world. I love the passion. I love the depth of love and care. That's not some cold, distant being. That's a God whose heart breaks for the brokenness of our world. And I think that's such good news. That heart, that depth of love or care is what drove Jesus to the cross. That heart is for you in a way we will never fully understand. Is God a cold and indifferent being? Is he indifferent to the suffering in our world? No, it makes him furious. It breaks his heart, and I think that's such good news for you and me. It is a God who's close, a God who cares deeply for us. Cares enough that he actually came to make a way for us to one day live free from the pain and the suffering in this world, to be reunited with God forever. That's our hope in the heart of our God.